Hello and welcome to my Vinted review, the truth behind Vinted. So basically I'm going to share from an experienced seller's and buyer's perspective the pros and cons of selling or buying on Vinted. This dress that I'm wearing is from Vinted. I got it for €3 and I love it. And my Birkenstocks, real Birkenstocks that I'm wearing, I also got for €20 on Vinted. I'm going to share all of the timestamps in the description box. So if you want to skip and look at just certain things for selling or buying or just the pros or just the cons, you can do that in the timestamps in the description box. If you like this content and you get some value from it, please give this video a like and consider going to my Thrift Thursday video playlist. I upload thrifting videos every single Thursday, and I do mom videos on Mondays. So check the description box for those things and consider subscribing if you like mom content and thrifting content. Let's go. Ashley from the future here. I just want to say that while I was making this video, I realized I couldn't possibly cover all of the things I needed to in a YouTube video. So I decided to make a deep dive free course on Udemy for you. Check the description box to get that, to access that completely free. And let me know in the comments what you found the most useful. I hope that you're going to make use of the course and keep watching. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the selling perspective, the pros. So the pros from selling on Vinted, the first one is easily how easy it is. So the process is very streamlined. I'll show some videos or screenshots along the way, so you won't just be looking at my face, but you'll see some of the actual examples. So it is super easy to upload your items on there. They help you with categorizing it and the shipping and all of that. So it is really easy to sell on Vinted. The second pro is the audience. There is a huge audience. Now, I am located in Europe, in the Netherlands, so I can sell to not only local buyers like a Facebook Marketplace or Marktplaats in the Netherlands, but I can also sell easily to people all over Europe with Vinted. So that is a huge plus because your audience and potential buyer target audience is way larger than other platforms. The third pro is the automatic reviews. So if somebody opts not to give you a personal review and they don't give a complaint or say that something is wrong with the item, you get an automatic positive review feedback. So that helps with their reviews because on Vinted, I find that people really rely on looking for reliable sellers with some reviews. They rather buy from people with an experienced record. I will share my Vinted. Sorry, editing on my phone. Here is my Vinted account, Momming Abroad, if you want to check it out. Wardrobe closet in the description box. So if you want to look at my closet and what I currently have for sale, please do that. But that really helps. So that's a major pro. The next pro that I have as a seller is the automatic shipping label automation process. So you don't have to worry about figuring out shipping yourself. It goes automatically. They find the right company for the buyer, and it just mostly you don't have to print anything. You can just do it all automatically online. So it's super simple. You just have to pack the item yourself, and you're ready to go. You're ready to sell when somebody buys an item from your wardrobe. My last pro that I want to mention is that it's really easy to sell items for more than you bought them for. So for example, books. I love to thrift books at local thrift stores. And if I just realize I don't have time to read a book, or if I've already read it, then I can resell it on Vinted most of the time for a little more than I purchased it for. So what I find is that people just look quickly for an inexpensive book that they want, and they just want to buy it and have it sent to them. So you can easily flip books and sell them for more than what you actually paid for them. As long as you should be definitely honest about the quality and everything in your description. But I find that really easy, and the uploading process for books is also amazing because the ISBN book scan makes it so easy to categorize it, and that's something that makes book selling on Vinted super simple. Baby items and baby clothes are also usually easy, and I will add another pro now is the bulk sales or discounts for multiple purchases. You have an easy item option to offer bulk sale discounts. So if people purchase multiple items at once, they can get a discount, and then they're only paying for shipping once, as well as getting a discount on buying multiple items. And that makes it easier to sell multiple items at once. And I find that really positive as both a seller and a buyer. It's late at night. I am tired. I was editing the video and realized I completely forgot the cons of selling on Vinted, which in itself is kind of a sign that they can't be that bad or that many, given I forgot to add them to the video. So the first con of selling on Vinted is that it can be difficult to sell items sometimes. I feel like in the years that I've been on Vinted, it's kind of hit or miss. And perhaps that's on me. Maybe I just haven't figured out the algorithm or how to market my items. But I feel like sometimes items go like this for a great price, and other times they sit there for months and months and months. And I'm holding on to the items in my house and storing them for what? And a couple of euros. Why? So usually I'll put stuff up for sale for a little while, and if they don't sell within a reasonable time frame, I bring them to donate them to either a thrift store or to a charity of some kind, depending, or I gift them to other people, depending on what it is. Con number 2, I would say, would probably be the difficulty in categorizing items. Besides books, which have the ISBN number and are extremely easy to categorize, it can be difficult to find the right category for things. And again, maybe that's on me, but I feel like this might impact the sales, but it can be really difficult to figure out which category, how to market it. Yeah, maybe I'm just not a salesperson. Con number 3 is that sometimes people ghost you. I do feel like it is less than on other platforms like Marktplaats, but in the Netherlands that's a common like eBay type thing. But yeah, sometimes people will show interest or make an offer, and then you accept the offer and they just never come through and they don't reply to messages. It happens sometimes, but I honestly don't think it's that bad. But yeah, it can be difficult if people don't outright purchase your items. It can cause a little bit of unnecessary stress. It happens sometimes. Not a major hindrance, but a con that it happens sometimes, I guess. Yeah. You can find really, truly great items for great prices. I have yet to find any other platform where I can find such great finds for such great prices. I mean, the amount of sellers on Vinted is really amazing, and the items that you can find there for such good low prices is truly, in my mind, unbeatable, at least here in Europe. I know in the US there are way more Facebook groups and things where you can get things for free or super cheap, but at least here in Europe, in the Netherlands at least, I find Vinted truly a lifesaver. I've bought so many items for both myself and my kids and for our house that I truly could never find elsewhere for the same prices. So that is the main pro. The second pro that I'm going to mention today is also kind of on my con list. That is their algorithm. The algorithm can make it difficult to sell, but it makes it so easy to buy. It really gets to know you after a while from the things that you favorite or the things that you purchase, and it makes it so easy to quickly find items that you will truly love and for good prices. So it is a bit of a con because, of course, they collect your data. which if you're a super conscious person about that, it's not super positive, but it makes your shopping experience so easy and helpful, especially if you are a busy mama. The third one is the buyer protection. If your item is not correctly described or isn't, in the condition that it's supposed to be in, then it is generally easy to either get a full refund or to send it back easily or get a discount. They have a pretty streamlined service for that, but also a bit of a con here with the refunds. I'll explain that in the cons section. Okay, new scenery. I'm wearing my Patagonia jacket that I got on Vinted for 20 euros a few years ago. It's still in great condition and serving me very well. The next pro for buying on Vinted is the bulk sales. So this is great for sellers because they can sell a lot of items at once. But as a buyer, if you find somebody who has multiple items that you like, you can get a bulk discount already in without even trying to offer less than what they're asking for, simply because they've applied a multi-sale discount. So that is great for getting multiple items, and you only have to pay the shipping once. So if you have favorited a few sellers that have items often that you like, then you can really make good use of this and find items quickly, and even things that you didn't know you wanted. So that's a great pro as a buyer as well as a seller. My next pro as a buyer is that you can easily bid less than the offering price. So as a seller, you put up an item and you have an asking price, but buyers can make an offer. And in my experience, many years on Vinted, I often make offers for lower. It has to be at least 40% of what the asking price is. And I often, especially on bulk items, offer less than the total. And it's usually accepted, or sometimes they counter with something in the middle. And that is an amazing, easy item. Of course, you have a chat function, so you can kind of negotiate in the chat as well. But it just makes it super simple and quick. And you usually can get items for less than the asking price. The last pro I want to mention in this video is using your balance. So if you both sell and buy on Vinted, you can use the profits from your sales to buy items, and that way it feels like you don't even have to get anything taken out of your bank account. And I usually am pro this. I want to use my Vinted balance to get new items for myself or for my kids, and I love this option so that you don't need to withdraw anything from your bank account. It's automatically applied, and you can use your Vinted balance to purchase other secondhand items on the platform. I am now walking the dogs. Let's get to the cons of buying on Vinted. So sales that don't go as planned, so refunds, are not always easy. I just had a very positive refund experience, but I've also had negative ones. So for example, a couple of years ago, I bought my daughter light up sneakers that she was super excited for, and I didn't try them on her straight away because they were a gift for Santa Claus, a Dutch version of Christmas kind of. So basically what happened was they were sold as a certain size in the description. And since I didn't try them on within the time frame that you have to return an item if it is not as described, because it was a gift and I got it a little bit in advance and I wrapped it, it wasn't so easy, or actually it wasn't really possible for me to return it without paying for shipping to send the shoes back in order to get the refund, because it was out of the time that you have to return an item if it was not as described. So even though the size in the description was different than the size of the actual shoes, I was out of luck, and I had to just suck it up because I didn't do it in those few days. So if you're getting it as a gift and you cannot try it on straight away, then yeah, you're out of luck because you're not within that time frame. So that is definitely a con. On the other side though, I did recently order a Brain Quest workbook for my daughter, summer Brain Quest book, and it said a few pages were filled in, or some pages it said, but it was almost half of the book filled in. So I did get a full refund without any questions asked, and we could still use whatever pages were left over. So that was a really easy process. So it is a con, but I mean, within the limits of Vinted, you can get refunds. So don't completely, disregard Vinted for the refund process. Okay, my next con as a buyer on Vinted is the lack of control over which postal service you use. So for the shipping, sometimes you just get stuck with whatever there is. And for example, Mondial Relay, is I think a Spanish shipping company, and they have not paid several distributors in the Netherlands recently. So a lot of places that used to accept them no longer do, and Vinted is not always up to date on that. So it is really unfortunate when it turns out that you can't pick up at the shipping point that you chose, and it's just not a great company, Mondial Relay. And then also the DHL home pickup, I had several days, I think it was either 2 or 3 days, where I had to stay at home waiting for them because they don't give a time block for them to come pick up at home these big items that I had no other choice. I couldn't choose to go and bring it to my local store. I had to do the home pickup, and I had to wait at home and change my whole schedule for them, and they never came. And then this goes to my next con of the customer service sucking at Vinted. They did nothing to compensate me for the days I waited at home, and they insisted it was a DHL problem, but it wasn't. It's an issue with the Vinted and DHL stream worked system that they have, and I don't know whether they fixed it, but as of about a month ago in the summer of 2025, they hadn't fixed it yet. So I touched on this in my last con, but the customer service really sucks at Vinted. So if you have an issue, they're going to always try to blame other people for it, and you will get little to no help from them. So keep that in mind. Do your research. Check out my free Udemy course that really dives deep into the pros and cons, how to buy and sell on Vinted before you start buying if you are a new buyer, because customer service, not so good. The next con that I have as a seller on Vinted is the packaging. Sometimes you get things in really interesting and creative packaging, and it doesn't always protect your items. So a lot of these people are just selling their items secondhand. They're not professional businesses or sellers, so they're just seeing whatever they have at the time to wrap up what they're selling, and they send it on their way. And I've had, for example, a book that was not really well wrapped, and it was raining. So some of the pages did get some water damage, but you could still read it, and the pages still turned, just like me now, with these dogs, these puppies I have. If you are interested in puppy content, I have a playlist. I'll put it in the description box as well. We've just adopted 2 puppies here in the Netherlands, and it's been extremely enjoyable, but very hard. At any rate, it just, sometimes items can get damaged if they're not wrapped well, and generally it's kind of hard to prove if it's not super obvious what happened. So I've in the past just let the sellers know, like, hey, it was raining a lot, and the book wasn't really wrapped that well, so there was some water damage. Clearly was not in the original item described that way, but it's still usable. So I just want to let you know for future sales. Okay, the next con that I have as a buyer on Vinted is only applicable if you both buy and sell on Vinted. If you have sales and you have a balance in your Vinted account, they will automatically apply the Vinted balance from your sales to your purchase. Now, I normally think this is a pro because I want to use my profits to buy secondhand items. However, if you are trying to save up for a more expensive item on Vinted and you don't want to use for your smaller purchases before then, your balance, then I have no idea how to turn it off. So that is something I consider a con. I have tried to figure it out. Maybe that's on me. Let me know in the comments if you know how to turn this off. because I would love the idea of saving up for something a little bit more expensive and using my balance for it. But in the meantime, I need to make smaller purchases, and I can't do that if I have to use my Vinted balance in the meantime. If I want to try to save up for something that's more expensive. And since my sales are so irregular, that's kind of difficult to do. Okay, so my last con as a buyer, and I have so many more. When I was making this video, I decided to make a free course. I am a teacher and a researcher after all. So please check the description box for my free Udemy course where I dive much deeper than I can in just a YouTube video. But the last con I have for you today is the data. So they do collect your data, which makes the algorithm work great for suggestions, but it does, invade on your privacy a bit. So keep that in mind if you are very protective of your data. Vinted does use your data. You can request basically a PDF with all of the data that they have collected from you, and I've done that recently, but I didn't review it to see what it was exactly. Just keep that in mind. They keep track of your data. Okay, so to summarize, overall, weighing the pros and cons that I've mentioned in this video, again, I dive deeper in my free Udemy course on the buying and selling on Vinted tips and pros and cons. I think it is worth it. I have been buying and selling on Vinted for many years. It's not something I would consider, really a reliable income or something, or my only area where I shop and buy, especially not for my thrifting. If you check out my Thrift Thursday video playlist, you know that I love to thrift at thrift stores. But I also have plenty of Vinted videos. I love shopping at Vinted. Overall, I think the pros outweigh the cons. You do have to understand how the platform works to get the most out of it, though. Okay, let's wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos, whether they're thrifting or mom videos. And be sure to check the description box for my free Udemy course where I dive deeper into this topic. Bye!